Good morning. It's the Call Flow Radio Show, and you're on the air.
Well, you can be if you give us a call at 434-394-0924 on this Thursday, June 13th. This is Chris Wood. We will ask you to hold on to your calls, though, because we do have a very special guest in the Francis E. Wood studio this morning. It's Mayor Brian Vincent, and we want to say good morning to Brian. Good morning, Mayor.
Good morning. How are you doing?
I'm loving your shirt. I am. It says "Keep calm. I'm the mayor."
That's right.
Okay.
I was gifted this shirt after the election by a family member.
Oh, yeah. I can imagine who it was.
So it's been fun.
That's great. Well, you had your meeting earlier this week.
Yes. We had our meeting last night, and it was a pretty packed agenda. We had public hearings on the idea of forming a land bank entity, which I can go into in a second. And then we had a public hearing on a conditional use permit for a solar project that was actually in town around Cedar Avenue. And then a public hearing on a new change to our zoning and subdivision ordinance, which entails requiring sidewalk construction on new developments, which was not in our ordinances prior. Mm-hmm. So we had some folks show up to comment in the public hearing section. We had some folks show up to comment about the land bank entity, which is there are certain localities. Virginia, I think in 2016, the state legislature passed some legislation stating that localities could form land bank entities, nonprofit entities that are designed to deal with what you would qualify as blighted, abandoned, derelict properties.
Oh, okay.
And it was in the paper. The Herald reported on it. And this becomes another mechanism, another tool in the toolbox by which a locality can try and improve blighted properties that drive down property value. Localities, one measure is to condemn a building and then have the owner pay for the condemning and the demolition of said building. This is another avenue if there are pieces of property that taxes haven't been paid on in a while or abandoned or what have you, but that this entity sees value in, they can take control, fix up, renovate, and then the cost gets charged the owner. If the owner can't pay, then it gets sold. So you could see why some of that language would make people a little hesitant. And it did, and we had some people show up, and there was a lot of discussion about the idea of derelict in the Code of Virginia language and what that means and whether or not somebody like this entity could come and say you're not upkeeping your roof or something to that effect and try to utilize this. And I just wanted to say that if you look at Code Section 15.2-907, it gets into what the state views as derelict and has to do with vacant, boarded up buildings not lawfully connected to electrical service. So it's not really designed to go after people living in their homes.
Residential.
Right. It is residentially focused. This is not commercial focused at all. And I think maybe some of the hesitation may have been also that this, while it was called the Farmville Land Bank, it was an outside entity that was going to be controlling it. And I think, we're in Farmville and we like things to be local. And so I think there was probably some reticence there because it's often in these situations you have the nonprofit organization, but it's a pass-through to a profit, right? And there is going to be a board that's over here that's investing that's going to look for a return, right?
Absolutely.
And so that whenever people are looking for a return, there's always, you got to be cautious and make sure. So we tabled the land bank. We're sending it back to the work session for the council to go through some more and kind of pick through some of that language and see if it's applicable. So that got tabled. The solar project, the conditional use permit got approved. We didn't have anybody show up to comment. I think we had one person. And the solar project is a fairly small project. It's on 125 acres off Cedar Avenue.
Now, where is Cedar Avenue?
Cedar Avenue is over off 3rd near how would I say? It's kind of like, Taylor Forbes back behind there.
Right.
So this section of land's back behind there.
Right. Mm-hmm. Where the hotels.
Yeah, but it's kind of back in this little corner. It's not, you don't really see it. You're not going to be able to see this.
Right.
So it's on 125 acres of leased private land. The project itself, the fenced solar site, will be about 58 acres. Mm-hmm. And so there'll be tree lines that block and obstruct view. So all in all, fairly small solar project, but one that will, the town will see an increase in revenue off that land versus where it is now.
And where will the power go?
So it's a proposed 12 megawatt solar power generating facility, and so it'll get fed into the system. It'll make a financial contribution to the town, could generate $0.2 million in town tax revenue, etc. The folks came and gave a great presentation. For anybody who has questions about it, one, you can go back and watch the council meeting last night and get the whole presentation about from them. You can also, we discussed this last night, you can go online and download and print out this whole 231 pages on the solar project.
Sure enough.
And it kind of lays out like all the mitigation reports they have to do, right? All the wildlife reports they have to do, all the environmental reports.
So they pretty much have done their homework.
Yes, absolutely. And they have to.
Yeah.
And that's part of the process. And so they're even down to like pollinator mitigation and making sure that they are a good site and a host for pollinators like bees and that sort of thing. So it even gets into that aspect. And we also got into the decommissioning aspect, where down the road, when this timeline runs out in 20 years, what happens decommissioning? Do they take all that stuff back?
Oh,
right?
okay.
And they've got a good recycle return on that. So all in all, if you're interested in the solar project, of course, anytime there's a big project like that, like I said, there's 231 pages of documental reading. You can also always reach out to myself or a town manager with further questions, because it is a fairly intricate ordeal. I will say, from a impact perspective for town residents, one, the project from start to completion will be about 6 to 8 months. There'll be about 50-ish full-time people working on it.
That's good for revenue as well.
Yeah. And then the first few months, you'll be the most traffic of like trucks and stuff and bringing in equipment and that sort of thing. But after that, it quiets down. And then they project that only about 7 to 10 days out of the year people actually come to the site to see stuff, because they can remotely check most of that. And decibel-wise, the decibel levels are very, very low. And then at night, of course, they're not loud at all. And, the systems, the energy systems that make the most amount of noise are actually constructed in the middle of the solar farm itself. So, one, not noise pollution. Two, you won't even really see it.
Good.
So, all in all, one of the best possible solar projects you could have for a small town like us. Anyway. Full information online. People are welcome to review some of that, review the meeting last night, contact us if you have questions.
Okay.
And
so
I'm
that
sure
was
that
approved, so it's...
Conditional use permit. Well, they have a few more steps they have to go through, because they do deal with Department of Environmental Quality, et cetera. So they have a few more steps they have to go through, and a few more dotting I's, crossing T's. But town-wise, yes, we passed a resolution to grant a conditional use permit to them.
Okay.
So, and then last was the sidewalk ordinance, which did pass 6-0 unanimously. I will say that the solar projects passed 5-1. We had one council member out and one council member voting in the negative there. And then... we allowable cost policy on federal regulations. This for us was just a sort of housekeeping. We wanted the finance director, Ms. Julie Moore, wanted to make sure we had proper language laid out for federal regulations around grants and that sort of stuff. It's policies that they already follow, but they wanted to map it out because it helps with their attainment of certain recognition for the job they do. Like we often talk about them receiving certificates of achievement, and this falls in line like that, like trying to make sure. And then the really big one, in a way, was we brought back some old business on parking fees.
Yeah. How about that?
How about that? And this has been it's amazing. It's still sometimes, and I get it, right? People, it's a very real touch point, right? And so it does seem to generate a lot of interest. But here's the thing that I find the most fascinating. The parking fees on the meters raised apparently like a lot of stink online.
Oh, okay.
A lot of people got fiery. A lot of people were saying all kinds of ugly things. Nobody showed up last night to public comment.
Isn't that amazing? That is truly amazing.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, we had a council member who said he got like 20 phone calls, but nobody showed up to speak to the council on that. I mean, and it wasn't on the agenda, but public comment period's open for you to come publicly comment on any town business. Public hearings are for you to comment on specific items, but public comment period's open. So it was interesting. Anyway, that parking fee thing, for folks who were unaware, was folding into a much larger project, the ABM project, which I believe I've spoken on here numerous times. And so it's a infrastructure modernization project that folds in water meter improvements that we're doing, HVAC improvements, energy efficiency for buildings improvements, and the parking meters. And all of it's folded into the same project. The water meters are going to save us a lot of money because we'll be able to detect exactly where leaks are. Whereas before, you got to go dig up a bunch of road and look for them.
Process of elimination.
Yeah, basically. Right. And so that's a great improvement. And all these things are good improvements. But the parking meter stuff was folded into that. And the idea is all these improvements cost about $7.8 million. We're going to see a saved revenue of $10 million from all these improvements, which means there's a surplus of $2.2 million that the town will see. Now, the stipulation is if we follow all the guidelines in the contract and we don't see those savings, the company that we contracted with pays us that amount.
So it's a win-win situation.
So it's a win-win. And so we have to stay at $1 on the parking meters for an hour.
Right.
What we decided to do last night was allow people to pay increments up to $1. Right now, the meters were being programmed that you had to pay up to it. You had to pay $1. So even if you were feeding coins, you had to get to $1 before it registered.
Right.
Now you'll be able to put in a quarter or 50 cents for 30 minutes.
Oh, okay.
So for people who are concerned about coming out on Main Street and want to do quick business, there's your avenue.
I think I like that better.
Right.
I like it better.
Yeah. And I will say, and I said this last night, I was downtown and I used my credit card to pay because I like testing all these things out. So I'll go downtown. And I paid $1 on the parking meter and I was like, all right, I'm going to utilize my full hour. So I'm going to visit multiple shops. I only had one thing I had to do, one errand.
Yeah.
But I was like, all right, well, I'm here and I got this hour. Let me roll around town and check out a few more things. And hopefully, in my mind, if you're from out of town and you're going to pay the parking meter for an hour or two, I'm hoping that means you're going to go move around downtown and check out lots of businesses down there. Right?
Yep.
The other side of this is for folks who are like, parking should be free. We have 6 free parking lots downtown.
Right.
And one of them is on Main Street.
That's right.
We have 6 free parking lots.
Yeah.
So I talked to a few other mayors at a small towns conference that I recently attended, and some of those towns have free parking on Main Street, but they have signs that say 2-hour parking.
Right.
Well, now you got to police that.
Yes.
How do you pay for the policing of that?
Right.
If you don't have, are you doing it just off parking fines? Well, then you got to be aggressive in ticketing people.
That's true.
And they said that they still ran into the same problems we're running into, which is business owners parking on Main Street, taking up those parking spots all day.
Right.
So you can't win for losing, but you're trying to do your best. And so that's where we are on that. I will say, like I said, I did find it interesting that nobody showed up to say anything.
Yeah. Well,
after all that.
I know, but, maybe there'll be a run on 50-cent pieces.
That's right.
At the bank.
Outside of that tidbit, we've got a lot going on. We've got the July 3rd Fireworks After Dark coming up.
Yes, where's that going to be?
It's downtown.
Downtown.
Fireworks After Dark, downtown, July 4th celebration. We do it downtown. This is the 3rd year, I think, we've done it downtown.
Where is that? At the
Well,
park?
we shoot the fireworks off the top of Town Hall.
Oh, okay.
There's 10 food trucks downtown. Mm-hmm. There's bands, cruise stage. North Street always does stuff. It's a great celebration. We close down Main Street. We hang a big, giant American flag at the end of down near the bookstore. Mm-hmm. It's great. It's a great scene. It's great bringing people downtown for that event. We get to all kind of convalesce together. So that does mean that July 3rd, our work session will be canceled for town council because we all want to, of course,
go to the party.
Go to the party, and they're shooting fireworks off town hall. So join us for that. And the Splash Pad grand opening is coming up.
Oh, wonderful.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we're hoping that will be done the last week of June. We'll put out some notices because we'll do a ribbon cutting. Mm-hmm. And then, boom, Splash Pad open for the summer.
We're going to need it.
Yeah, it's going to be good.
I think. With the weather, it's already, predicted to be up in the 90s.
It's getting
starting
warm.
out. So, yeah.
For sure. So that's a big excitement. I did mention last night that I attended NLC, is so National League of Cities Small City Committee. Mm-hmm. I'm on that committee. We had 2 meetings. We talk about legislation federally and things moving around nationally that help small communities like us. I had 2 meetings with the Virginia Regional Economic Development Organization, which is a new organization that's being put together with the help of the CRC, the Commonwealth Regional Council. Mm-hmm. So I'm on some committees there, including the Refinement Committee for the mission of that Economic Development Authority regionally. So that's exciting. We had some good input in our Refinement Committee. And then I had my board meeting for Virginia Department of Wildlife Resources. And then a couple of us went to the Small Towns Conference in Abington this past beginning of the week, so Monday and half of Tuesday. And it was awesome to spend time with small towns across the Commonwealth.
Yeah, and Abington is a
gorgeous.
Beautiful.
And a lot of correlations with us, right? Like they have a very similar population count. They have the Virginia Creeper Trail, 34 miles, that starts out of there. So similar to us, that's a federally recognized trail. Ours is a state recognized park. But some similarities there, small town, recreation, that sort of thing. But a beautiful town. Beautiful things going on.
It's just an absolutely beautiful area.
Absolutely.
And it's a nice drive, too.
Absolutely. And I had a great meeting. One of my fellow members on the Department of Wildlife Resources board, Will Wampler III. If you're unfamiliar, the Wamplers are kind of southwestern Virginia royalty.
I know.
So
I'm familiar with that name.
His father was a Virginia senator for a long time, and his grandfather was a congressman. And Will served 2 terms in the House of Delegates. And so I met up with him, checked out his law office, had lunch, and then talked to governing for a good bit. And it's always good to have people like that who have vast experience in governing and get some guidance from them. So it was,
good. That's
good.
Great. Yeah, absolutely.
I think that about covers. I will say, we did have paving. We had the paving going on around the avenues.
Yes, and it's nice.
It is,
it's very nice.
And that was one of the things I mentioned last night. It was very pleasant out walking my dog, and I had 2 separate occasions people stop me and compliment on the paving work and the professionalism of the pavers and the work they were doing, and it was nice because that doesn't happen very often these days. Yeah, so it was very nice to have somebody stop and say something nice. And that's not a woe is me, cry me a river thing at all. I recognized what I was getting into when I got into this role,
right?
Which is you're going to take some heat, and that's great. That's fine. But it's still nice.
It's nice to get compliments.
That's
as
right.
Well.
That's
sure
right.
It is. When you make a mistake in radio or whatever, they're going to be the ones that you said it.
That's
I
right.
remember. But, and a lot of times the work that you do goes complimented or whatever.
Well, it's funny. I was just another individual who monitors we have these, you have these Facebook groups for the town, and one of the folks monitoring was discussing how tough it is, right? Because people are so confrontational. And it's like we are. Culturally, we're we're being ingrained this idea of confrontation, cynicism, and kind of outrage, and we're being becoming addicted to it because the algorithms feed it. They want that. It engenders engagement more than anything else. A lie and ugliness travels much further than truth and decency.
Yeah, that's true.
And so it can be tough. And I would just say that it's imperative upon all of us to extend grace to each other.
Absolutely.
And that's what Farmville's great at.
I know. It's wonderful. It's a wonderful place.
It is.
It
absolutely.
is. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming in and giving us an update on what's going on. And we're excited about the Splash Park.
I know. It's going to be fun.
It's going to be a lot of fun. And hope that you have a great remainder of your day.
Thank you.
You travel around a lot.
Yeah. Well, I like. Yes, I like. There's that old. Well, it's not old. There's the popular lyric from the Hamilton musical about being in the room where it happens.
Being in the room where it happens.
Yeah.
That's right.
I like being in the room where it happens because if I'm not, that means somebody else is, and I want to bring my ideas to the table.
Absolutely, and you do it well.
I appreciate you.
All right. My regards to your family.
Thank you. My wife told me this morning, she said, make sure you tell her hello.
Oh, okay. All right. That's good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we thank you again, and we'll look forward to speaking with you next month.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right.
Always a pleasure.
Take care. Always a pleasure with you as well. All right. That was Mayor Brian Vincent, and we always enjoy having him behind the mic. He's very informative. Well, we've gotten down to the bottom of the hour just about. It's 8:29:30.37 or whatever. Anyway, we'll get to our weather forecast, and we do have some birthdays and anniversaries coming your way as well. And let's see. We have the weather forecast coming your way. Let's make sure that we have our temperature. All right. It's on the move, I can tell you that. Up. Anyway, for today, we'll see mostly sunny skies with a high of 88 degrees. Tonight, mostly clear with a low around 66. For Friday, sunny and hot with a high of 94. Friday night, we'll see a low of 65 degrees, maybe a 20% chance of a pop-up thunderstorm around, otherwise partly cloudy. Saturday, sunny with a high of 88 degrees. Saturday night, mostly clear with a low of 58. For Sunday, mostly sunny with a high of 88 degrees. Sunday night, partly cloudy with a low of 64. And for Monday, mostly sunny with a high of 93 degrees. Outside, your humidity is at 93%. We have winds coming in from the south around 3 miles per hour. Our barometer is at 30.05 inches. We do have mostly fair skies outside. It's 67 degrees. All right, that is your weather forecast. We do have our birthday and anniversary calendar coming your way. And let's see, it's brought to you today by Creative Electrical Contractors. They're located at 1907 West 3rd Street in Farmville.
Creative Electrical Contractors specializes in commercial and industrial projects and offers quality work at competitive prices. CEC is a licensed Class A contractor in Virginia and North Carolina. Creative Electrical Contractors has been in business for 25 years, still committed to the values that were established when the company opened in 1998. Integrity, quality workmanship, and timely delivery. CEC, located at 1907 East 3rd Street, Farmville. You can contact CEC at 434-392-3802 or at creative-electrical.com. Let's
get that birthday music going here. The birthday music.
Yes, the
here.
birthday music, of course.
All right. And we've got, of course, Noah here.
Yeah, I've been here all along, Chris.
All along, taking pictures and all that good stuff.
Oh, Chris.
Oh, come on. You're a good photographer. Why not?
What's today again? Is today the
Today
13th?
The 13th,
All
yes.
right.
Yeah.
All right.
Somebody little is celebrating.
Yes. So we have 4 birthdays, 1 anniversary. For the birthdays, we have a Nixie Davis who is turning 13 today. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
That is, we have the day or like how old
Right.
she is. That's
Right.
nice.
Absolutely.
We also have Keith Little. Marcy Dunn, Stacy Falwell. And for the anniversary we have today, Josh and Caitlin Knight.
All right.
Josh and Caitlin Knight.
Well, congratulations to them.
I know, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. All right. And how can they get their names on the birthday?
This is a fun way. I always like to say, call in if you're feeling bold. But if you're just like a regular Joe or not a regular Joe, you can email them to birthdays@wflo.net. You can also send a telegram through the mail. Or smoke. We take smoke signals as well. Just gotta. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that brings back old memories. Uh-huh.
And also, I almost forgot. Kirby Motley his birthday is today.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Oh well, congratulations to Kirby as well. That's good.
And
All right, and you mentioned the email to birthdays at. Excuse me, just a minute. Okay, birthdays at WFLO.net, right?
Yes,
okay.
yes. Kirby Motley and also Margaret Kenny. I'm popping. They're starting to flow.
You're popping these names out.
I had another list actually, underneath the main
you did?
list.
Okay.
But Margaret Kenny of Crew is also has a birthday today. So that was a nice. There's a lot of birthdays going on today. I like it.
That's good. That's
I'm gonna eat some cake tonight.
The birthday calendar brought to you by Creative Electrical Contractors. If it's not right, they'll make it right. Call 434-392-2802. And now we get to, let's see, I think we have a caller. Okay, and we'll find out. Good morning, you're on the Call Flow Show.
Good morning, folks.
Hello there, Henry.
Everybody's doing fine, I hope.
Yep, we're doing just fine. How are you?
Oh, I'm better than nothing, by a little bit.
By a little bit?
Yeah.
Okay.
Did you know that, speaking of Noam, since we hadn't, so let's, can you imagine that he's getting married and the preacher has got them together, and he does his little opening bit, and then he turns to the groom, and he said, "Do you know her?" And Noah said, "Of course I know her. I wouldn't be marrying a stranger."
But
yeah, that's good. I like that.
Yeah. Anyway, there was a couple of twins out here that boys. And they went to school together, and they played the same sports. And the two of them decided they would open up a drugstore. So they went and got their pharmacy license, the two of them, and they came back and opened up the store. Their names were Phil and Refill.
Okay.
And Phil is probably the oldest one.
Probably. You got that right.
Yeah. Oh, boy. Then there was a little Mexican-American boy that wanted to go to the baseball game. He didn't know that much about it, but he went to the game. His parents picked him up after the game and said, "Son, did you enjoy the baseball game?" He said that they really looked out for me. He says, "You know, I'm real short because I'm only 8 years old." But they were very concerned about me. Said before the game started, they wanted to make sure that everything's okay with me. And they said over the loudspeaker, "Jose, can you see?"
Jose, can you see? Oh, okay. And what did he say? Yes, I can see. Right?
He said, "I see." Yeah.
Okay.
I had friends at the Myrtle Beach recently, and they said that the ocean was so friendly, it just kept waving at them.
Okay.
Okay, but anyway.
Henry, have you ever been to an open mic and told some of these jokes?
I don't know. Depends on what you call an open mic.
Oh, like a restaurant that has like a little like MC and like a microphone set up.
I did thousands of. I emceed over 2,000 festivals. Yeah, and I always told jokes. That was my job, kind of, so to speak.
Okay.
Yeah, I've all my life I've kind of told jokes. Like the two butter beans crossing the street and a car hit one, and they rushed him to the hospital. Doctors worked on him and came out and told the first butter bean, said, I have good news and bad news about your friend. And he said, what's the good news? He said, well, he's going to live. He said, well, what's the bad news? They said, we're afraid he's going to be a vegetable for the rest of his life.
Oh, I think I've heard that before, but it's still funny.
Yeah.
It's like good old misdirection.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, give us another one.
Well, I was going to do other little thing here. I had a funny phone. I had the Weather Bureau call me one day, and this mysterious voice asked about the weather. I guess that's what he meant. He said, is the coast clear? That sounds a little funny, though, don't it?
Yeah, it does. It does, yes.
Yeah. It's like the guy that called the hospital, and he said, my 4-year-old son has swallowed the house key. What can I do? And they said, go in through the window.
Oh, my.
Latest medical advice.
Right on. Wait a few hours, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You might be able to retrieve the key, is what I'm trying to say.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Whew. Okay.
Well, it's like the guy that swallowed the dictionary.
What happened to him?
They gave him a strong laxative, but so far not a word from him.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah.
I've shared this about almost a year ago, but we have people that weren't listening then and whatever. Gail Noble and her husband Robert had a bluegrass band called Willow Branch, and they had it for 40 years. They still do.
Yeah, I remember them.
They lived near Scottsville, and they both worked in Charlottesville. And one day Gail was driving just on the outskirts of Charlottesville, and she saw a car wreck, and the car turned over on its back, upside down. Gail stopped to help, and nobody else stopped. There was a lady trapped inside the car, but Gail couldn't get her out through the broken window. And suddenly a big African-American gentleman walked up just like out of nowhere and said, let me help. And he lifted the lady out through the window.
Mm-hmm.
And at that moment, the rescue squad arrived because one of the passerbys had called them. And Gail told them the big gentleman had rescued the woman from the car. And the squad said, hey, what gentleman? There's nobody here but you. Angel unaware.
I got that.
Yep. And while I'm talking about Gail, when she and Robert first got married, they were, living on the edge of finances. And one day an elderly lady called Gail called her at home and said, I really need some medicine, and I don't have any money. Is there any way you can help me get my medicine? And Gail said, well, yes, I'll get it for you. So Gail drove to the drugstore. But all the way she was praying because she didn't have a penny. How am I going to get this medicine? Lord, help me. So she got there and just said, well, Lord, you're going to have to do something to help me get it. And she opened the car door in the parking lot, and there on it, right at her feet, was a $50 bill. So she picked it up and looked around with nobody out there. And so she held $50 in her hand, went into the drugstore, and she said she was kind of holding the $50 up in case somebody said, oh, hey, I lost $50, but nobody said anything. So she got the medicine, which was a little over $47, and she had some change coming back. So she got the medicine and took it to the lady, and the lady said, I'll pay you as soon as I get some money. And Gail said, no, it's all been taken care of. But isn't that a neat...
That is a neat story.
Yeah, that's right. You know, Reverend Earl Wallace and I have been friends a long time, though he may discourage that. But anyway, there's nothing I wouldn't do for him. There's nothing he wouldn't do for me. And so far, we've done nothing for each other. But anyway, he became a minister, but before that, he was in the Navy. That's where you have to show your belly button to get off a naval station. But anyway, he was in Vietnam, offshore, on a ship, of course, and they had a meeting. He had a meeting. He's supposed to meet 5 other servicemen in a certain compartment on the ship. So he was walking that way about 10 minutes before the meeting, and the commander saw him and ordered him to do something else. So the 5 others were in the meeting when a fire broke out, and the officer in charge ordered the compartment sealed. So the ship was saved, but those 5 men were trapped and burned to death.
Oh, wow.
And Reverend Earl said it took him years to stop hating that guy who gave the death sentence to those 5 young men. And this tragedy event happened aboard a carrier ship at 4 p.m. Christmas Eve in 1967. And Earl said he had to pray a long time before he could forgive that guy. You know, he didn't say forgive him. He said, before I stopped hating him. But anyway, death is a part of life, looks like. And that's a hard story. You know, one day I went to get my nephew, Kevin, who was at Prince Edward Academy, and I was going down High Street, and a car pulled across the road, and a wreck did not happen. But I don't see how I missed it. Right across the road, and I didn't miss it 1/1000th of an inch. And, excuse me, the Holy Spirit said to me, there was no collision, not because of what your hand did, but because of what my hand did. That little voice said that to me. And then my voice said to me, I have to tell someone at school about this. So I stopped near what was a lower school, and my voice said, I have to tell someone in that room at the end of those several rooms. So I went and knocked on the door. The room was empty. I knew it was empty. But when I knocked on the door, it was opened by, Pastor Doris Holman, who said she was a teacher there, and she'd run out of chalk in her room. And then she cried and asked me to pray for her as she had to meet with Dr. Sawyer, the head of the school, at 5 o'clock. A couple of weeks later, Dr. Sawyer joined me at breakfast at Dairy Queen, and Reverend Holman drove by. And Dr. Sawyer says, you know, I don't know why I did something yesterday, but he said I was supposed to I was going to terminate Doris Holman's contract. But he said for some reason he re-signed her for another year. She told me later, throat trouble. Somebody's trying to cut it. Anyway, she told me later her class was a bit behind the others, and that she would write questions and answers on the blackboard, and then a couple of days before the test, they would pray over that information and then erase it. And the C and D students became A and B students. Oh. Though the information was erased off the board.
Hello? Hello? I believe we lost him.
We lost Henry. It was
okay.
Right when the information was erased off of the board.
Yeah, the information was erased off the board.
Unbelievable.
Unbelievable. Anyway, okay, we're going to hope maybe he'll call back, but if he doesn't, then we've got some other things that we have.
do have other things to do. Chris, I mean, I didn't even ask how are you doing today?
I'm doing all right. I'm doing okay.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I've been enjoying these beautiful
You
days.
call it beautiful. I call it.
I know.
It's just getting closer and closer to like 90-degree weather, and I'm not ready for it, Chris.
Oh, okay. All right. Let's see. Well, let's check out celebrity birthdays. All right.
Okay.
Birthdays for today. Okay. For today, April the 11th. It's not April the 11th. Huh. Well, let's go to our history.
Okay.
Because that was the wrong date.
I apologize. That's probably my...
That's okay. Anyway, what went on this date in history? And I've got to do this. I've got to bring the screen up just a little bit so that I can read it. 2023, Donald Trump became the first former U.S. president to be charged with federal crimes. As he was arraigned in a Miami courtroom, he pleaded not guilty to 37 felony charges that related to his alleged mishandling of classified documents. Mm-hmm. We all know about that.
Yeah, big story.
2005, after a 14-week trial that became a media circus, American pop singer Michael Jackson was acquitted of child molestation charges. In 1982, following the death of his half-brother Khalid, Fahd became the Saudi Arabia king, overseeing a period of modernization in the country. 1971, the New York Times began publishing the Pentagon Papers, a series of articles based on a study of the U.S. role in Indochina from World War II until May of 1968. The papers added to the growing opposition to the Vietnam War. And let's see, in 1967, Thurgood Marshall, you remember hearing about him? He was nominated as justice to the United States Supreme Court by President Lyndon B. Johnson. He became the court's first African-American member. In 1966, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled in favor of Ernesto Miranda in the Miranda versus Arizona, affirming that constitutional guarantees against incrimination include restrictions on police interrogation of an arrested suspect. And let's see here. In 1913, Hudson Stuck and Harry Karstens led a mountaineering party to the South Peak, the true summit of Mount McKinley, becoming the first people to ascend North America's highest peak at 6,140 meters, or 20,320 feet. That's a lot of height.
That is a very, as a person who has a fear of heights, that's a lot.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
All right, I've got to take this call,
Okay.
and we'll see maybe if it's Henry calling back. Good morning. You're on the Call Flow Show.
Hey, I'm back. I don't know what happened.
Somehow or another, we got cut off.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's going on
Well,
there? Now, let's see. Where were we with the
Something about just information being erased.
erased on the
white
blackboard?
blackboard.
Oh. Yeah, they put it on there, the answers to the test.
Mm-hmm.
And then a couple of days before the test, she erased it off and prayed over it.
Mm-hmm.
And they had them all bow their heads, and they prayed. They'd remember it at test time. And it brought their grades up from a C and D to a B and C.
Yeah.
And
that's pretty cool.
Dr. Sawyer told me that he had called her to come up at 5 o'clock, and he was going to terminate her contract.
Mm-hmm.
And because she wasn't accredited to do that kind of stuff. But he told me later, he said, for some reason, I don't know why, I gave her a new contract and extended her for another year.
All right.
So, but the kids came out ahead on that.
Mm-hmm. We did that.
Yeah. Back in 1985, I had a greenish color on the back of my left hand, and a sore that would not heal. That was on my left arm. Mm-hmm. And I would rebuke it in Jesus' name, and it would almost vanish, but it would come back again and again and again. Mm-hmm. One night, I had the Axe TV network on, which it was at that time, it's not on anymore, but it was a Christian network. And one night I was watching that, and Benny Hinn came on and he said, the Lord is removing skin cancer from someone's arm. And I said, Lord, I'll take that. Mm-hmm. And I rolled my sleeve up, and that snaky green color left, and so did the sore on my arm, and never came back.
All right. That's
See,
good.
sickness and disease has to obey the Lord.
Oh, okay.
We don't. He gives us free choice.
Mm-hmm.
But when he speaks, they have to obey. He doesn't give them a choice. There was a banjo player up at the Sedalia Center a few miles from Lynchburg, mm-hmm. And he had damaged his right hand. He couldn't play the banjo. So my sister Betty took me up to the show they were going to do, and it was at the Sedalia Center, and I was backstage and the banjo player he was just sitting there, and the others were warming up, getting ready to go out. And he had hurt his hand, and it was swollen, and he could not play the banjo. Mm-hmm. So we prayed over his hands about 15 minutes before showtime. And then I went back and sat down with Betty, and that young man came out there and played the fire of that banjo.
Wow.
The Lord healed his hand right on the spot. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just fantastic. Reverend Jeff Worley, godly man, at a church at Toga, and he invited me to come up to speak, so I did. And he had asthma, real bad. And anyway, he would be in a wheelchair after he preached, fighting for his breath. So after I spoke there, I started out to the car. It was at night. And something said, go back and see Reverend Jeff. So I went back inside, and I had a little prayer over his body, put my hand on his shoulder, and I left. And the Lord took care of the asthma. He never had to use he never did have to be fighting asthma again. They had recently taken him to the hospital after one service, but he never had that problem again. And as of this day, he's never had that. And he's still preaching.
That's a wonderful story to end on, Henry. We really appreciate you calling back, and we'll be talking to you soon, okay?
All right.
Have a good weekend.
My number's
Pardon me?
414-0096.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, too. Have a good day. All right.
You.
Bless you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right. We had a double dose there.
Double the hen.
Dip. Double Henry dip. Anyway.
That should be a dip they sell.
See what?
That should be like a dip, the double Henry dip.
Oh, yeah. Could be ice
like
cream,
name
too.
it. Ooh.
Double Henry dip.
That's good. That's a good name.
All right. Well,
I did want to mention,
yes.
Chris, before we head off,
Yes.
just like a couple of updates. We have the Farmville Spotlight, the second rendition, on the 27th of this month. That'll be the last Thursday, and it's easier to remember that than the 27th.
Right.
And also Doug Stanley tomorrow as well.
That's right.
On the Call Flow show. So
Good.
definitely want to tune into those.
Look forward to that as well.
Yep. And so.
Yeah. Okay, everybody. Thanks for listening.
I appreciate it.
And we'll be talking at you on the Call Flow show tomorrow.
Bye.
WFLO AM 870 Farmville.